Here's a question most people never ask. Why is the minimum payment on a credit card so low? Take a $5,000 balance at about 21.5% APR. If you make the minimum payment every month, never miss one, and never charge another dollar, you could still be paying that card for more than 16 years. And by the time it's gone, you'll have paid roughly $7,500 in interest. So the $5,000 balance ends up costing you about $12,500. That's not what happens when you stop paying. That's what can happen when you pay exactly what the statement asks for. Welcome to Foxprint Finance. Today, we're looking at one of the most expensive numbers in personal finance, the minimum payment. Let's say life gets messy for a few months. Maybe you had to move. Maybe the car needed work. Maybe you bought a laptop for your job, then groceries and utility bills slowly joined the party. Before long, the card is sitting at $5,000. You're not ignoring it. You pay on time every month. Your account stays current. Your credit score may look perfectly fine. From the outside, nothing seems wrong, but the balance barely moves. Here's why. Many US credit cards calculate the minimum as a small percentage of the balance, plus that month's interest and fees. The exact formula varies by issuer, but let's use a common example, 1% of the balance plus interest with a $35 floor. At 21.5% APR, the first month's interest on $5,000 is about $90. Add roughly $50 toward principal, and your first minimum payment comes to about $140. You see that number and think, okay, $140. I can do that. And you can. That's what makes it dangerous. Out of that first payment, only about $50 reduces what you owe. The rest is interest. You send the bank $140, but the balance falls by only about 1%. Then comes the part most people miss. As the balance gets smaller, the minimum usually gets smaller too. 140 becomes 120, then 100, then 80. That feels like relief. Your required payment is going down, so it looks as if you're winning. In reality, you're slowing down. It's like walking up a down escalator. You are moving. You are making an effort. But the machine underneath you is taking away most of the progress. And because you're technically doing everything right, it's easy to stay on that escalator for years. There's also a psychological effect here. The minimum payment gives your brain an anchor. The statement shows you a small, manageable number, so that number starts to feel normal, maybe even responsible. If the top of the statement said, "Pay this balance now or keep it until the 2040s, you'd react differently. Instead, it says, minimum due, $140. That sounds less like a financial emergency and more like an annoying monthly bill. Cable, phone, credit card. Just pay it and move on. To be fair, the minimum payment does serve a purpose. If you're dealing with a short-term emergency, it can keep the account current and help you avoid a late fee. The problem is treating an emergency setting like a long-term repayment plan, because the incentives are not on your side. A customer who never pays is a loss for the lender. A customer who pays the full statement balance usually generates little or no interest. But someone who pays on time and carries a balance can produce interest revenue month after month with relatively predictable behavior. That doesn't require a secret meeting in a dark conference room. It's simply how the product makes money. And this is not a tiny corner of the economy. Americans collectively carry well over $1 trillion in credit card balances. Surveys also suggest that a meaningful share of people who revolve debt make only the minimum payment in a typical month. So if you've fallen into this pattern, you're not uniquely bad with money. You're using an expensive product exactly the way millions of other people use it. The balances can get ugly fast. Run the same minimum payment math on $11,000 at around 23% APR, and the payoff can stretch beyond 20 years, with interest approaching $20,000. Not because you missed a payment, because the payment kept shrinking. This math was hidden in plain sight for a long time. Then the Credit Card Act changed what issuers had to show on monthly statements. That warning box on your statement, the one almost everyone scrolls past, estimates how long repayment will take if you make only the minimum. It also compares that with the monthly amount needed to pay the balance off in 3 years. Go look at yours. Seriously. It may be the most useful box on the entire statement. Once you see 16 years printed next to a balance you thought was under control, the minimum stops looking so harmless. So what do you do instead? First, stop letting the payment shrink. Go back to the $5,000 example. If the first minimum is around $140, round it up to $150 and keep paying that fixed amount every month, even when the required minimum falls. That alone cuts the payoff time from more than 16 years to a little over 4 years. Make it $200 a month, and the balance is gone in under 3. Same debt, same interest rate, no viral side hustle, no 12-step money system. You simply refuse to follow the payment downward. The difference may be $50 or $60 a month. That's still real money. I'm not going to pretend everyone has it sitting around. But if you can find it, that relatively small increase can save you thousands of dollars and more than a decade of payments. Second, automate the fixed amount, not the minimum. Autopay is useful, but check what it's actually set to do. Minimum payment protects you from a late fee. It does not protect you from long-term interest. Third, check the 3-year payoff amount on your statement. If that number is too high, use it as a target rather than a pass or fail test. Move toward it. Every dollar above the minimum attacks principal and reduces future interest. And if you're juggling multiple cards, keep the minimums current on all of them while directing extra money to one balance at a time. Highest interest rate first saves the most money. Smallest balance first can provide a quicker psychological win. The best method is the one you'll actually stick with. One more thing, your bank will remind you when the payment is due. It may text you, email you, and send a push notification. What it probably won't do is send a message saying, hey, another $50 this month could save you years. That reminder has to come from you. The minimum payment is useful as a temporary floor. It's terrible as a destination. So when your next statement arrives, don't ask only, what's the least I have to pay? Ask, when do I want this debt out of my life? Then choose a payment built around that date, not around the smallest number the statement will accept. This is Foxprint Finance. If this helped you see the math more clearly, hit like, subscribe, and send it to someone who still thinks paying the minimum means they're almost done.